Catch the Breeze here. Thanks for coming back to the channel, and super excited to have Bryce Thatcher, the founder of UltrAspire Hydration, with me today. Thanks, Bryce. Thanks for joining me today.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So so just wanted to ask how you're doing and how's the family, and check in initially.
Overall, we're doing really well. Everybody's healthy. All my kids are healthy. My wife is healthy, and we really have no complaints. From a health standpoint, things are all good. We've traveled a lot, and it's good to be back. In the United States for a little bit longer period of time, and so that has all been good.
Excellent. Now, I know you travel back and forth quite a bit, just in general for business reasons, and you go to Vietnam. So maybe fill me in a little bit about sort of what's happening with things on that side.
Yeah, so we've been in the process. We have one really good factory in Vietnam, and we've grown a lot the last couple of years. And so we're just in the process of starting another factory over in Vietnam. And over the course of a couple of months, I was over there 4 times. And so it was just like home for 2 weeks, then back there for a week, and then home for 2 weeks, then back there for a week. And I did it for a couple of months just to establish, relationships with the new factory and so forth. So on my last trip, which I came back about 6 weeks ago now, I guess, that's when the COVID virus just started kind of accelerate and get going quickly. We obviously we were nervous about traveling, but at the same time we had a lot of things that we need to complete. Mm-hmm. And so it made it just a little scary, I guess, to travel. But at the same time, it was something we needed to do. Vietnam in general, the country has been very careful right from the very start. And they, started wearing masks instantly. They started checking in every public building instantly. They checked your temperatures to go into places and things like that. And so I think they did a pretty good job of controlling things. And then obviously we were very, very careful, as well, just with making sure that we didn't get into crowds and we didn't go out into, social places, just in the country in general. But the factories, though, especially the bigger factories, they all required, which I thought was cool, that we wear masks. And then they also required that your temperature was checked prior to going into the factory as well, too. And so that was a nice thing. It made us feel a little bit more comfortable. The thing that was interesting, though, when we were overseas so much, the number of news channels that were available for us over there, U.S. news channels, were very, very limited. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, it was very, it was doom and gloom. Right. That's what we were hearing in the news. And right. we're sitting there and we're like, okay, are we going to be able to make it home or not? I don't know if we're going to be, we might be stuck in this hotel. And then we're kind of, so we had a little refrigerator in our hotel, and we kind of started stocking water and things like that in our hotel room, just in case we had to quarantine in the hotel. Right. And so we kind of mentally prepared for it. At the same time, I was like calling airlines and things. United was great to work with, and they just said, no, your flight's still going, just be at the airport on time. And so we were really lucky that we were able to fly back, and there was really no instance at all. I think the big shock for us was we'd been gone about 10 days, mm-hmm. and we live in southern Utah. And by the time we got back, we went to the grocery store the next morning, and whoa, it's like no
right?
toilet paper.
Seriously? I know, right?
No eggs, no chicken, no toilet paper. It's like, what happened?
I know.
Go back to Vietnam and get toilet paper.
I can imagine like the shock of that, right? I mean, to have such limited information. And then now, were you in touch with people here in the States? I'm assuming so, to really get the story on what was happening. And
yes, we were in touch with our kids, mm-hmm. In touch with people back at the office, and they were still functioning, and still working at the time. We've since kind of our office is the operations side of the business, meaning the shipping and warehousing is still functioning, and we continue to move forward as a company, and things are going actually pretty well. But the rest of the office staff and the marketing staff, well, we just gave them the option, and they're all working from home now for a while. I suspect it'll be a few more weeks. Utah hasn't been hit as hard as many other states, and I hope they don't. Because of that, I'm pretty much, my life as I know it is pretty normal from that standpoint, meaning I get up, I go trail running every morning. The trails are just, a few blocks away from my house. I rarely see anybody. And if I do see somebody, they're, 100 or 200 yards in the distance. And so from my, general life standpoint, it hasn't been affected much just for my personal life. And I still get out with my kids, and we rock climb, and we do things like that. And that's been good. I think it's helped maintain my sanity. Just keeping active and making sure that I keep as many routines in place as possible. That's been really, really good. I think the thing that's been difficult for me is, even though I've taken this very seriously, I'm also a very healthy person, and I've done everything from, I just made sure that I'm taking my vitamins, I'm eating super healthy, I'm getting my exercise, and my wife is an emergency room nurse, and she just kind of says, well, as long as we're healthy people, the chances of contracting it are very low. And so we did that, as well as everything else that's been recommended, always washing our hands and social distancing when we go out. And so far, we've been very blessed with that. The thing that's been difficult, though, is the huge variance between how people respond to the whole thing.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you to touch on that, because I know here in California, it's, we were the first state to shut down. We initiated a shelter in place, early March or mid-March, and
very early on.
Yeah, and it was like overnight. Like, we were informed that by midnight Tuesday of the 17th, everything was going to shut down, businesses closed, and so we didn't really have a lot of time to respond. I think as a state, we went, okay, now, really, is this really happening? And then to have it, and then to have the early April date given to us, and then that got extended to May. We're just, it's constant, the messages about, social distancing and stay at home. So I wondered about that in terms of Utah, just how people are responding around you.
Yeah, and it's been very, even amongst my kids, some of my kids have just, they've been almost paranoid about it, to the point where they're just afraid to be around anybody else. They're trying to go to a location where they don't have to be around anybody. And then I have other kids, like my daughter and son-in-law, they both work in the hospital, and just because of their career, they've been very careful, but at the same time, they it's just part of their job. They have to go there. Now, in St. George, where we live, very few cases in the whole county, which includes all the southern Utah states. There's like 40 cases in the whole county. So not many. At the same time, people are still very careful. They closed down our gym for a month, and then just this morning it opened up again. And even with it, and they opened the gym up, but they had everybody wash their hands going into the gym, and then they kind of segmented off every other machine so that you still kept social distancing. But it was amazing how happy people were just to be back at the gym. And I don't go a lot, but a couple times a week I do some core strength and things like that, and it was fun to be back. People were very pleasant and happy, and they all respected each other's space as well too. And so that was nice. But as far as even within our own company, we have people that have just been really nervous about it. And I think the big lesson that I've learned from it, because I'm kind of a little more towards the conservative side of things, meaning it's a big deal, but at the same time, it's not a huge deal for me. And so from a personal standpoint, and then we have people in our company that it's just like they act like it's the end of the world. And so the big lesson for me has been not to try to convince or talk to people about my feelings on it, because it's such a jugular issue with people.
Yes.
That you just kind of have to let them handle it the way they want to handle it, and they have to process it themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And I think also it's, it depends on where you live, right? Where you live in the country. I mean, obviously
Right.
New York or New Jersey, people are going to feel a little differently about that. Here in California, we have a lot more people, we have a lot more cases, and
Right.
so with you, I think it really depends on really where you are, but also
Right.
like in terms of demographically, but also, as you said, personally,
Right.
how healthy you are, how healthy you aren't. And I know
Right.
recent studies now are, coming out to say that if you're a healthy individual, chances are you're really not going to be impacted by it. But if you've got, obesity or chronic heart disease or some of these other, compromised immune system, then you're going to be affected.
Right.
You could be, I guess, is a better way.
Right.
So I guess what I'm hearing you say again is that, you personally are like, okay, I'm a healthy individual.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you take your vitamins, you exercise, and I know you also are, you really try to maintain the stress in your life in a very balanced way.
Right. Yeah. Another thing that's interesting amongst the hospital that my wife works at, it's a wonderful hospital and a big hospital, and she works in the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of not really a joke, but it's going through the hospital that they think that the virus came through the hospital in the middle of January, because a bunch of them got sick.
Yep.
They had all the symptoms, and these are doctors and PAs and nurses that got sick in the middle of January. They think they've already had it, and it's gone through the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Uh-oh, Bryce? Okay,
there you are. Somebody was trying to call me. Sorry, I just declined. Anyway, so they think they've already had it. And, and I have no idea, because, I've talked to other people that have, one of our friends was on that cruise ship coming out of Japan, and he tested positive and never got any symptoms. Never. Nothing. And so it's difficult to, and the thing that's interesting about him is he's had a kidney replacement and he's on immune suppressant drugs too, and he never even got a symptom. And so it's just kind of hits people hit and miss.
Yeah, I think so. I would agree.
And then my son, I have a son who's a doctor in, he's just over the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania border in New Jersey. And he's a doctor in New Jersey, and he works at all like 5 hospitals around New Jersey. And he's in the thick of it all. And, and so he was really nervous for a while. And especially when there was a 35-year-old person that, passed away in one of his hospitals. And then as soon as he dug more, he realized that the person had a lot of pre-existing conditions. He was a heavy smoker, very overweight, and had some lung problems, had a history of pneumonia, things like that. And so I think when people start looking at it all, it's very, very sad having anybody get sick. Right. But if you are a healthy person, your chances are you're going to be okay.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with you. I mean, I feel very much the same way. I feel like, okay, if you are careful, you're watching, your health, you don't have any illnesses, so to speak, or compromised immune system, then the chances are you're going to do fine. So now talk to me a little bit about the company and sort of like how this has affected the business.
Right.
I know you've got retailers across the country. I know you've got, spring, items or, launch new product in the spring. So talk to me.
Right. Yeah. So I'm fine personally, and the business, obviously you're nervous about that. Because, if we look at our business as a whole, about 40% of our business is specialty run stores or outdoor stores in the United States.
That's right.
40% of our business is international distributors, which are, I think we're in 35 or 36 countries right now. And that makes up about 40% of our business. And then right now, about 20% of our business is through online sales or distribution channels or things like that at a full retail price. So if we look at our business as a whole, the specialty dealers have been hit pretty hard. And that's the saddest part of it all is we look at them as the brick and mortar run specialty stores that are kind of an icon in most communities, where you can go and you can try on shoes, you can try out products, things like that. They have been hit really hard. And that has been very difficult for us. And as a company, for example, one of our larger customers would be REI, for example, and just a big outdoor chain. And they instantly shut down most of their headquarters, shut down all their stores. And so that being not REI, but all of our independent and large dealers like REI making up 40% of our business, that side of our business has taken a hit. And it is definitely down. The online side of our business, which would be our specialty online and Amazon partners, that side of our business is up.
Okay.
And so people they're excited about running. They want to get out. We've even noticed some people that used to go to the gym, and since gyms have been closed, now they're going outside and running because in a lot of areas in the country, you can still get outside as long as you're keeping social distancing. You can go outside and still exercise. So
that's right.
That's that side of our business. Now, our European business, because France, Spain, Italy have been hit so hard. Our distributors are still taking their orders, and we've shipped their orders to them, but their stores are also shut down too, because the countries are all shut down. So I think it'll have a ripple effect that will probably go even after the countries open and after we're kind of over the hump of everything. I think it's going to have a 3 or 4 month or longer lag time because people are sitting on inventory that hasn't been sold, so they're not going to reorder in the later months.
Exactly. Yeah. So what do you think about that? I mean, how would you adjust perhaps for that?
Well, what we've tried to do is we've tried to reach out every way possible to help our specialty dealers. That's been super, super important to us. We've offered extended dating and terms so that we allow them to take longer to pay their bills. We've also offering a drop ship program specifically for the dealers, and so that they can connect in directly to online sales. And if somebody wants to order something from their store, then we can ship directly to that customer, and then it's just as if the sale went directly through the dealer. So we have a very good drop ship program and extended dating, which has helped them as well too. And so we're also working at ways to try to help them get set up so that the smaller dealers will be able to sell online as well too, because that has been functioning fairly well in the run industry, and that's kind of what I hear across the board. Now, what I'm hearing in the factories, though, it's kind of interesting, because the factories we work at in Vietnam, and now I'm talking raw material factories. This would be meshes, foams, buckles. Most of our fabrics come out of Korea. And so talking with all of our suppliers, their business is down significantly. For example, one of our mesh suppliers, they just do a wonderful job for us. We have some really beautiful meshes that we develop with them, but their largest customers are Nike and Adidas. And they said that Nike and Adidas have canceled huge amounts of orders with them because their business is so down. And so because of that, it's kind of having a ripple effect all the way through. The other thing that we've noticed with Vietnam, and we're lucky that we did get our spring products in, but now we're waiting for some reorders to come in. But to get raw materials, it has been like in Vietnam in general, they have shut down some factories, according to the location in Vietnam, if they had kind of a sale of a little breakout, then they would shut down the whole district and shut down all the factories. But the thing that we've struggled with even more has been getting raw materials out of Korea or out of China into Vietnam, because they only fly right now into Vietnam one plane per week. Per airline. And so because of that, it's like, okay, you've got to take your turn to get on the flight. So like right now we're scheduling some raw materials coming out of Korea, and right now we're crossing our fingers. We're on a May 3rd flight. And so, that's still pretty far out for us, especially when you're paying air freight for something. But that's how it's been affected, because everybody is still just very tentative and afraid. So because of that, they're being very slow to respond. And especially in the third world countries where their medical is not quite as good as it is in the rest of the world, they're being ultra conservative on getting things going again.
So in the event that this shipment, so to speak, this doesn't happen, how would you adjust to even that?
Well, we would look for alternative supplies. And then ultimately, they're pretty good suppliers. What it's going to be is it's just going to be a delay. It's just more delays. And so, for example, our spring 2021 product line, we had 4 or 5 products that were kind of earmarked to introduce in spring 2021, which would be stuff that we would show in July and August of this year and deliver next January of 2021. Well, because of the delays, we've had to scale back, and now we're only introducing 3 new products because some of the products didn't make it. They just didn't make it. And so, and then we didn't want to push the envelope too much to where it's like, okay, it's better to do 3 things really well and make sure they're done rather than halfway do other things. And we didn't really want to put drawings in our catalog and stuff like that because the product wasn't quite ready. And so, we've had to adapt. And I think that's kind of the theme of the people that are being successful right now is you can't do business as normal. You have to adapt.
And that's right. And that's actually a perfect, a perfect thing to say, right? Is it's really about, when things like this happen, and they will. And I think some people are pretty surprised that it's come to this, right? I mean, I know I was to some degree thinking, wow, can they really just shut down businesses and for 4, 6, 8 weeks? And the reality is, yes, it can happen. And how do you adjust to that? So I know that you have lots of great relationships with race organizers, and that you yourself, you run events. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Having conversation with these event coordinators or organizers. I mean, what are you hearing? What are they saying?
Well, as far as I know, and I could, I don't watch it as closely as I used to. Our sales director and marketing director watch it a lot more closely than I do. But as far as I know, all events have been canceled, at least for the next few months. We always help out with Speed Go. It's usually in July every year, which is a mountain race that Carl Meltzer puts on in Salt Lake. We have yet to hear from him whether it's a go forward or not. I think it's kind of a wait and see. He's hoping that it'll happen. We did have a race that happened on March 7th, a local race, and it was a trail race. And that one, did go on, very successful race, but it also got a little bit of flack too. It's just like, why are you putting on a race, amidst all this crisis? And so I think that race directors in general have really kind of shied away from everything, and they're just waiting for things to kind of settle down. So I'm hoping by the end of the summer, things will kind of start to happen again. But it's unsure at this point.
Yeah. And do you think, I'm just asking this more just in general to get your sort of opinion, but if there are any changes that are going to be made in terms of how races are put on, do you have some, ideas as to what you think might look different?
I really don't have an opinion on what's going to be different. if there's more than just a few people there, they're going to have to, not do it, or
Maybe
just
the
come up.
numbers.
Yeah, just fewer
Like,
numbers. They could do it cross-country ski style, where when I used to be a cross-country ski racer, where you just start off at 30-second intervals, and then they just stagger time everybody. So it's not a mass start. And it worked well for cross-country skiing. Everybody had their start time, and you just line up at the line, and away you go. And it makes it a little more difficult for timing, but they gave you a race number according to your start time. And everybody started at an interval. I mean, that's something that could probably work as long as you didn't, get too close together out on the race course and try to run together. And if you were going to pass somebody, you just pass them and move on. Something like that may work, but I haven't heard of anybody doing it yet.
Okay, that's actually good. I think that's a good idea. Makes some sense. But I also know that, for example, I ran Wasatch last year. And I remember, when you're running a 100-mile race, for example, you might start off, close, but then as the race continues, everybody really just, separates. And so it might too be that it depends on the type of event that happens.
Right.
And you said the number of people. So, so it'll be interesting to see how changes occur.
Yeah. Well, I hope it gets going. I mean, a lot of people just focus on events, and that's what motivates them to train. And I'm hoping, though, that people will just take this time as a time to really reflect and reset goals and kind of look forward with hope. I say that there's a bright hope and a bright future for everybody, and they just need to look forward that, hey, this is something we'll get through. It's kind of a little hiccup. I tell my kids, because even church is canceled, and so we have church ourselves at home on Sunday morning.
Awesome.
And it's just like, you know what, kids, one day you're going to remember this. Remember when we went to church at home? And they'll probably say, "Well, we loved it," So,
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, you take advantage of it and just do the best you can.
Yeah. Well, Bryce, thank you again just for taking the time, and all the best to you and your family. And and have a great week.
Thank you, Bree. Talk to you later.
Take care.
And bye.
Bye-bye.